Welcome to Hope for Healing Network. This is Cecily Henderson. Thank you so much for joining us today. I have one of my most favorite guests on. And before I introduce him, I want to give shout outs to those who have actually gone in and introduced themselves, told us a little bit about their story and journey. Wanted to do some shout outs that have put on the Please Tell Us About Yourself post. Carl, Anthony, Sharon, Francesca, Jeff, Tony Lee, Susan, Debbie, Jason, Sunavana, Andrew, one of our dear friends, Beverly, Jose. Thank you so much for telling us a little bit about yourself. That's why we're here, is to be able to hear your stories and get to know you better, so that because we're on this journey together of healing and hope. And now I want to introduce my favorite cheerleader, my dearest advocate, and the man that went through this all with me when I was sick for about 20 years, my husband, Bryan. Welcome. Thank you for being on this Zoom with me today.
You're welcome. I left my pom-poms in the closet.
He's very good at that.
Yeah.
Well, I brought my husband on today because, I wanted to give people a different perspective. Being sick, I had cancer for about 6 years, and then ended up with breast implant illness for 14 years. So it's 20 years out of my life that I was really sick. And my husband went through that with me, our children. Very, very difficult. He has a different perspective than I do. And I want to welcome all those who are looking for healing, practitioners that are here to help, and then also family and friends who they have a family member or a loved one that is sick and they don't know what to do, or they're struggling. They don't know how to feel about it. And so I wanted to let Bryan give a little bit about his perspective of living with somebody who's been sick for a long time and what helped him, get through those difficult times. So Bryan, please tell us a little bit about, what you did and how it was for you.
It was rough. It was very rough. There were some realizations that were occurring, particularly when you couldn't walk and push around a wheelchair, that, this could be the rest of my life. I guess for those with a Christian belief and a faith, it's a little bit easier. You kind of bring your perspective out a little bit. And what's the end game here? It doesn't reside here on earth. And so that helped a lot, is just, what's the end game? Where am I going? And it's beyond this world. And then you come to realize that you just make the best of what you got, So we look for opportunities to share things and do things, and they became few and far between. But that's what that's what got you through it. Got me through it is just looking for, I guess, a long view perspective. And those who don't believe or aren't Christian, you still have goals. You still have things to look forward to. And there is certainly, your name really hits it on the head. There is hope. There is always hope. You don't know what tomorrow will bring. And so you hope for the best.
Thank you. Yeah, that's perfect. I agree 100% with that it's you have to learn how to be okay in the place that you are now. And that's hard to do sometimes. But if you're able to do that and then have hope for the future, it gives so much peace. And that's what we're trying to do here at the Hope for Healing Network.
Well, the thing about hope is when you're in the middle of it, it's a lot harder to have that kind of hope. And that's why it's nice to have some support, whether it's a church, whether it's family, with your spouse, to kind of recage your gyros, to kind of rebalance yourself. Because when you're going through a trial, when you're mixed up in the middle of it, sometimes it's hard to see the end. It's hard to keep that perspective. And there are times that I fell short. Um, that's, I think, normal. That's expected. I think that's part of life. It's part of growing and learning. And if you don't have those challenges, nothing changes. Um, so not that I welcome challenges, but most folks, when they get through a really challenging time, um, and most of the time you can look back and say, wow, I never want to do that again, but I'm glad I made it and I learned a lot.
Yeah, it does help you grow. And I know that we've found things that we can do together, and it's been great. I remember talking to you last night and you were telling me, oh my gosh, Cecily, you're doing all these things. I'm going back to school. I'm working to, I want to get my master's and eventually my PhD, and then doing this, being a practitioner, working with clients and patients. You told me, Cecily, I don't know how you're doing this. You would not have been able to do this even a year ago. You would not have had the time or the capacity to be able to do this thing and help as many people as you are. And it was a great reminder for me of where I was and where I am now. And it's so gratifying to be able to find those answers and feel whole again. And that's what I want to give people, is that you don't, no matter what you're going through, don't give up. Right. I mean, it was the worst possible circumstance. I was paralyzed for 7 years. You had to carry me up the stairs sometimes. I couldn't make food. I couldn't clean the house. I couldn't do any of those things. You had to drive me places. I'd have to sit there in a wheelchair and watch as you would go on the roller coaster with our children. I couldn't participate in any of these things. It was so hard. And I'm just really grateful that I continue to move forward, continue to look for answers, had that inspiration. I am a woman of faith, but whatever you believe in, you know yourself the best. Listen to that intuition, listen to, what's going on inside of yourself, and keep moving forward to find those answers to healing or hope, because that's the most important thing, is just not to give up.
Yeah, you've been on fire the last, I don't know, 8 weeks. And what's, I think, unique about what you're doing is you've got a pretty good marriage of facts and the spiritual. This isn't just all touchy feely stuff. This is functional. This is, I mean, you interviewing surgeons and doctors, routinely, reaching out to other physicians. You've been on the FDA's website. You've done your research. You've had access to medical libraries. There's a lot that you've done. I don't know if you recognize that, but I mean, you have hours and hours and hours of content and knowledge, and that's not even counting the school stuff you're doing. So I mean, it's been exhausting, for me at least, watching you go through this, because it means I got to do the grocery shopping.
Which he doesn't do very often, by the way.
Oh, pizza works.
Yes. Oh, well, it is a journey. I'm excited to get to know all of you out there. I know Bryan he's also had his own things that he's gone through in the military, and difficulties and trauma. So we are very excited to get to know you and want you to reach out, want to interview you. I want your family and friends, your coworkers, anybody, your partners, anybody that is there to support you. I want you to be able to invite them to this safe space. And this is the biggest thing for me, is to make sure this is a safe space for you and your loved ones, because I didn't have that when I was sick. I didn't have a feeling of security. And that was the biggest thing, is when I'd have a loved one give me that security in the darkest times, that helped me get through the most difficult moments. And that's what I want to provide here. So welcome. So glad that you're here. Thank you, Bryan, for being on this Facebook Live today. It means a lot to me, honey. Thank you. And for all of
Yeah.
your support, everything that you've
Well,
done.
I mean, you, I don't know if you've mentioned this, but you were only a couple classes away from finishing your PsyD or from psychology and counseling. And when some of these things started manifesting themselves to the point where you had eye damage, you couldn't read as much. And that's, again, you had access to medical libraries because you were basically going through a medical program for psychology. And then you transition to functional medicine and the microbiome. And then once you realized that it was your implants, you put it all together and it came together pretty fast. So to everyone out there, I mean, this isn't just some internet expert. This is someone who's been to the school of hard knocks and real school. Um, you know, she may not have finished all of the catalog degrees or the classes necessary to get the degree, but you add that to the school of hard knocks and the experiences. She's got it all.
Can I tell you who's my biggest cheerleader? Thank you, honey. I appreciate that. Well, I wanted to wish everybody a happy Saturday and wishing you well. We're here for you and are excited that you're in this group. So anyway, happy Saturday. Thanks, honey.
Mhm. Cheers.